Welcome to Living the Spiral. This is a place to slow down, take a breath, and listen to the rhythms moving through your life. Here we explore astrology, human design, the I Ching, and elemental ancestral wheels of the year from cultures around the world. These are old maps and living languages that help us sense where we are in time, what is asking to unfold, and how we belong to something far larger than any single moment. In each episode, we trace patterns in the sky and in the body. We weave myth with lived experience, intuition with practice, and the personal with the collective. Living the Spiral is about learning how to move with change instead of pushing against it. About meeting transitions with curiosity, integrating polarities, and remembering that every season carries its own powerful wisdom. When you begin to listen to the cycles, life starts to feel more connected, more meaningful, and more alive. I'm your host, Alison Dale, and this is Living the Spiral podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to Living the Spiral and happy Gregorian New Year. We are crossing the threshold into the new year, and then a couple days later, we have a full moon in Cancer on January 3rd at 2:03 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so, this is a beautiful way to start the year. We have this full moon as well as a Venus Cazimi and a Mars Cazimi, which is when the sun is exactly conjunct these planets. And it's known as the planetary energy kind of sitting in the throne of the sun or the heart of the sun. And so there's a lot of powerful energy. The past couple of years, we've started out the new year with a little bit more of retrograde-y kind of action. I'm remembering the past couple of years' forecasts and first of the year episodes being a little bit more like we're starting fresh, but also we're in a slow down rewind. And this year it actually feels kind of like all systems go into this 1 year in numerology. We're moving from a 9-year into a 1 year. And so that energy of completing things at the end of 2025 and starting fresh in 2026 is real. So welcome. We're going to dive into the full moon and its aspects, as well as these Kazimis that are happening on this full moon week. So this moon is known as the year's full wolf moon, and that carries a long history of being associated with deep winter, with the instinct of a wolf, and that quiet but persistent call of what is still alive in us beneath the cold, dark, hard surface. It's kind of this very inward and underworldly, instinctual full moon. And in the Northern Hemisphere, the wolf moon arrives when the land is bare and growth is not visible. We're on the opposite side of the wheel from summer solstice and the Cancer season, where that full moon is landing across the sky. And so we're really emphasizing the polarity this full moon between the darkness of the winter solstice time and the bright long days and flourishing ecology of the summer months. And so this time of year, we're in this period where growth isn't visible, and survival during these darkest nights is really dependent on attunement rather than power, rather than outward speed. It's a lot more about resolve. And we think of Capricorn, we think of ambition and aspiration and resolve and determination. Makes a lot of sense at this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere being the coldest time of year. So this full moon is a lunation that asks us to really listen carefully and notice what we're hungry for and to respect the wisdom of our instincts as we move forward into 2026. This full moon is reminding us that beneath the surface, life is listening, life is waiting and orienting, and even when things look dormant, something essential is awakening beneath the surface. And I really like to look at the wheel of the year in terms of ecology and what's happening in the life cycle of a plant. That's kind of just been my way of geeking out with the zodiac over the past couple of years. And I'm working on a book that's related to the ecological and somatic zodiac right now that I'm really excited about. But Capricorn season has always been a bit of a mystery because I've been a gardener and have known a bit about the plant life cycle, but never really known the exactly what's happening underground, right? I think it's very easy to see a sprout and see a flower, as I've mentioned before, but it's harder to know what's happening in the winter months beneath the surface. And in Capricorn season, it is a time of the kind of awakening of the seed that is happening on a hormonal level. It is this period called cold stratification where after the seed has been buried underground for a little while since, Libra Scorpio season, it now is arriving at this period where it needs to go through a period of cold in many parts of the world in order to awaken the kind of hormonal response that allows it to sprout in the spring. And I just thought that was so poignant and so related to Capricorn season because it reminds us that not everything that is happening, not all growth is visible. And it reminds me of the sea goat archetype of Capricorn being this entity that can swim deep in the waters, kind of the mysterious waters, as well as climb to the top of the peaks, both places where a lot of creatures cannot go. And so it's kind of testing the extremes of our inner world, our inner depths, as well as our outer fortitude to reach the mountaintops. So this full moon is in the, immediate wake of holiday celebrations and family gatherings. I hope you all had a good, positive experience with all of the holidays this year, or in late 2025. And I always feel that a full moon in Cancer across the sky from Capricorn is a good theme is to think about parenting and reparenting ourselves. So I hope that over the next few days during this full moon in Cancer, you can give yourself some of the care and nurturance, take some time for yourself, just give yourself that care that you know you deserve, whether you receive or received that type of care from your literal parents and caregivers or not. It's a time of year where hot baths and self massage and deep rest and having boundaries with your time so you can do you are really the order on this moon. So I know it's kind of like new year, new you, let's go, New Year's resolutions and all of that kind of thing. And there is a bit of ambition to the beginning of the year. The first full gate of January that happens in human design is the gate of ambition. And that's where these Kazimis are happening. The Venus Kazimi and the Mars Kazimi are both happening in the gate of ambition. So there is that. If you're feeling like resolutions are the way to go, yes, that. And also knowing that the Cancer full moon is showing us that in addition to the ambition and the to-do lists of the new year, it's also really important to give yourself a kind of certain mothering type of care and nurturing type of care. I like to look at the Cancer and Capricorn axis as two types of care, really. Every polarity across the zodiac wheel has a unique similarity. It's kind of like the umbrella or the through line between a theme. And the Cancer Capricorn axis, as different as those two signs might feel, they really are both related to care and parenting and nurturance, but in very different ways. And so we have the sun in the sign of the sea goat and the moon shining bright across the sky in the sign of the crab. And as this full moon emphasizes that axis of Cancer and Capricorn, we can think about how both of those are related to nurturance and care and parenting. This full moon's happening in Cancer, as I said. It's an energy that's deeply connected to home, kind of the crab going into the shell, protection. It's connected to the womb, to emotional safety, and to the places that we return when we need care and nurturance. And Cancer is a sign that holds memory and attachment. It centers on the ways that we protect what is tender and what is meaningful to us inside that shell. As the sign of the summer solstice and the sign of midsummer, Cancer is really related to fertility, the awakening, the fruiting and the flowering of the natural world around us, and also the care and nurturance that has to go into maintaining that. The Cancer season, it's the time when the seed is fertilized and kind of you have to go inward in order for that fertilization process to happen. And so under a Cancer moon, if we have a Cancer full moon, emotions can often rise more easily to the surface. And we also might find ourselves more aware of our needs and more sensitive to our environment, and also more reflective about where we truly feel at home. Home is a big, big keyword here for the Cancer full moon. And this Cancer Capricorn axis on the zodiac wheel is really unified through that theme of care, knowing that good parenting is a mixture of both providing comfort and also setting boundaries and aspirations, both tending to a safe home and also setting goals for the future. So that's the traditional parenting as mother and father, which I don't ascribe to gender norms in that way. I think there's plenty of ways to parent and to raise children, but having both of those components in mind of strong boundaries with support and nurturance and care within those boundaries is very important. As a mother, I find that it's difficult to do both as one person. And so having partnership, having a village to raise a little being is so important to think about both the Cancer and Capricorn themes. In the same vein, I'd say Cancer and Capricorn is an axis of shape-shifting and versatility. Both the crab archetype and the sea goat or the fish goat, they can both live in the water and on the earth, and they both kind of go back and forth between different environments. The crab is more local in nature, where it tends to the lands and the water of the shores. And then the mythical mermaid-esque sea goat really covers more ground from the bottom of the sea to the top of the mountain peaks. But there is that liminality in both of them, which I think is so beautiful that they're both solstice signs, the signs where the solstices begin. So Cancer and Capricorn do have that ability to be fluidic and flexible. And that's another thing that within parenting and any type of reparenting work that we're doing, having that kind of adaptability and flexibility and ability to see both sides is very important. So in the zodiac, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and I love this dichotomy and this dynamism between Capricorn and Cancer too. Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is known as Cronus or Kronos in the Greek pantheon, and that Kronos is the etymology root of chronological. So when you think of Saturn, you think of chronological time, one thing happening after another, structured time, boundaried time, karma. And until telescopes were invented, Saturn was the furthest planet out, the furthest and slowest moving wandering star that ancient people could see out in space. And so it represents the boundaries of the solar system and the boundaries of our concept of time. It really was this timekeeper that takes about 30 years to orbit the sun. And that was back in the day, that was the lifespan was 30 years. So Saturn, Capricorn's ruler, was really emphasizing an entirety of life and the type of time that requires future planning. And so, again, as I don't really attribute gender to the planets, but in the lens of kind of traditional monogamy and traditional parenting, Saturn and Capricorn are symbolic of that father, big daddy kind of energy. And then on the other side of the wheel, Cancer is ruled by the moon. And the moon, of course, is always changing. It is reminding us in her daily movement of the ever changing nature of time, how time works in a cycle. It was very visible and obvious that there was a cycle that was related to the 28-day menstrual cycle with the 28-day revolution around the Earth of the moon. And so it's associated with the feminine and with fertility and with motherhood. And because of this synchronicity in astrology, the moon is also known to be in domicile or at home in Cancer. So it's a very good placement for a moon in that way. It's in its home sign of Cancer. Moving on to human design a little bit, beyond the generalities of this axis, full moons are always a really great time to think about the differences and the similarities between two sides of the wheel, whether it's the zodiac wheel or the seasonal wheel, whatever seasonal wheel that you ascribe to or work into your practices. I've been doing this project for the past few years where I'm looking at a lot of wheels of the year in conjunction with each other. The Wuxing Taoist 5-element cycle that has kind of a shifting dynamism between five different elements, and the medicine wheel, which takes four elements and four directions into consideration in the indigenous North American realm, and also looking at the pagan wheel of the year, which celebrates eight holy days throughout the period of the wheel of the year, or the human design mandala also is another wheel of the year. And so, what's really wonderful about focusing on full moons and new moons is that full moons give an opportunity to really think about polarities and how we can utilize that tension between two different sides of the wheel, between two different opposites that can find a certain harmony between them. And then the new moon each month, the sun and the moon are in the same sign, the same gate, the same season, the same part of the wheel. And that's a really great time to focus on a deep dive into that season that we're in. But for today, with the full moon in Cancer opposite Capricorn, we're going to be talking about the polarities and the differences and how those can be used to kind of have a mirror between what's going on in this current season versus what's happening in the opposite season, and how those things are quite interrelated. So, this full moon, January 3rd, the full moon in Cancer is happening in a specific part of the sign. In human design, the zodiac correlates with 64 hexagrams of the ancient I Ching, the Chinese book of changes. And these are known as the 64 gates in the human design system, or the 64 gene keys in the gene keys system, which evolved from human design. And in all of these systems, there's these 64 energies placed around the wheel, which is based on an ancient sequence of the I Ching. And so there's about 6 gates that fall within each zodiac sign. And you definitely know that if you've been following me for a while. But if you're new here, welcome. That's a lot of what I focus on, is how the human design gates of each season really fall within the thematics of the zodiac season as well, and the kind of progression of the gates and how it relates to the archetype of that zodiac sign. So I do a lot of work there. Just a little background. This full moon in Cancer is falling in human design gate 39, which is known as the Gate of Provocation. And to me, the Gate of Provocation in Cancer season, it doesn't really evoke that nurturing, mothering quality that I just mentioned necessarily, but it does represent and kind of evoke the image of a crab coming out of hiding and kind of coming at you with its monster claw, or a mama bear protecting its cubs. It's this energy of kind of being outwardly provoked and standing up for what you believe in. I'd say that don't have to worry that the name provocation can sound harsher than the lived experience of this energy actually is. Gate 39 is about emotional pressure and feelings that are gently but persistently pressing on places where something under the surface wants to be acknowledged. So within the realm of Cancer season, again, it's that hottest season of the year. It's the time when there is a lot of fertility, a lot of blossoming, a lot of creation happening. And so there's a certain amount of pressure to protect what is vulnerable. And this gate's energy can, in its shadow form or in its kind of lower frequency, it can look like restlessness or a kind of unsatisfiable quality, a subtle sense that something feels off, even if you can't really immediately put your finger on it. And Gate 39 has a way of really bringing awareness to unmet needs and half lived desires. And that's especially in the realm of emotional connection and belonging relating to Cancer. So in the Gene Keys, 839 carries the theme of provocation. Thought provoking is a word that comes up with this gate, because that doesn't feel as aggressive as like provocation somehow, like provoking versus provocation. For some reason, those two words feel very different in their energy to me. But sometimes you can think of being provoked as somebody stirring conflict for attention or for reaction. But in this regard, I would say provocation is, again, more about applying just enough pressure to awaken what wants to emerge inside. So It can feel a little bit like this full moon could feel a little bit like irritation or emotional restlessness or a sense of being kind of dissatisfied. But that's not always how it shows up. There's a certain sense of frustration with the Gate of Provocation that is just wanting things to move a little faster than they are, feeling a little bit blocked, feeling a little bit kind of unsure about the best way forward. But in the gift level of the gene keys, Gate 39 is the gift of dynamism. And I like that again around the solstice times, thinking about dynamism as this movement between extremes, this crab like ability to retreat and then to come back out, this sea goat ability to go to the bottom of the ocean and the top of the mountain. It's this life force energy that is moving, it's movement oriented. And so when we don't feel like we have when we feel like we can't do anything when we're being provoked by something that feels uncomfortable and we're just trapped in our shell, that can definitely feel irritating. It can feel provoking. But it's also the type of energy that can give way to an honesty of feeling and to following our own emotional truths that allow us to move. So, a quote by Ashley Mosaic, a human design guide, says that the provocation of Gate 39 is not random resistance in life, but it's life's invitation to clear what is blocked so we can move with greater purpose and freedom. So, new year, clearing of blockages, paying attention to the things that feel dissatisfying or that feel provoking in some way. In the I Ching, this gate is called obstruction, and it refers to a time when progress slows down so that we can feel what has been left out of that forward inertia and forward momentum. Obstruction here is not a mistake, it's a sacred pause that really redirects energy toward inner liberation. And liberation is this city, the transcendent level of this gate's energy. After we go from provocation to dynamism to liberation. And that, again, you can think of the Cancer crab in the shell feeling kind of the pressures on, and then figuring out, like, okay, I can move in and out. I can come in and out of the shell. I can move in and out of the water. And when we stop resisting the discomfort and just sitting with it and rather moving into that energy, Gate 39 opens up a path towards freedom that's really rooted in authenticity and connection to our innermost feelings. Richard Rudd in the 64 Ways, who's the author of the Gene Keys, he says that the 39th gift is all about unlocking freedom at all levels. They know how to release stagnant energy through a system. So it's pressure valve. It's like the gate of the pressure valve. Just been cooking with an Instant Pot lately, just out of laziness, and the Instant Pot has this pressure release valve, and you can cook some really good stuff under pressure. You can make a whole chicken adobo. You can make a lot of delicious food, but it has to be under pressure to make it happen quickly. But that can build up too much and honestly, blow your top kind of energy. And so this is about recognizing that through a little bit of that pressure release valve, letting the steam off and connecting to what really wants to come through, what's cooking inside. It can be a very liberating type of energy for this full moon. And, the moon is connected to the people, to the populace, to the day-to-day moments, whereas on the other side of the wheel, Saturn is connected to that long-term, more hierarchical, societal type of thing. And so this again highlights liberation and dynamism within the populace. So that could be something that comes through around this full moon. You can ask yourself on this full moon in Cancer about where you're seeking safety and if it's really truly nourishing you, or if you need to kind of get free from the confines of the shell a little bit. Ask yourself if you're staying somewhere because it feels familiar or because it genuinely supports your growth and well-being, because both can be true. And it's all about timing here. So this is a very reflective, emotional full moon in the Gate of Provocation, and it really invites a lot of honest reflection, and I definitely recommend that self-care, that Cancerian nurturance and care in a big way, as well as some reflective journaling and really thinking about the areas in which provocation can lead to liberation and lead to a dynamic interplay with life itself. So across the sky, the sun and Mars and Venus are all meeting up. And so it makes this moon quite turbocharged because there is not only the normal opposition with the sun, but also Mars and Venus. And those three are all in the Capricorn gate 38, which is known as the gate of the fighter. So there's this powerful grouping of planets coming together. They don't make their exact Cazimi, their exact conjunction, until they enter the next gate, which is the gate of ambition. But they are all still co-present there, quite close together in the gate of the fighter during the day of the full moon. So gate 38 is something that we should dig into a little bit here as, again, that gate of provocation, dynamism, liberation is creating a tension or a kind of mirroring energy with the gate of the fighter. So gate 38 is oftentimes misunderstood as a gate of constant struggle. And, the fighter, somebody who's always fighting and always kind of struggling. But the gene keys bringing that element in, it really does reveal something far more nuanced, where at the shadow level of gate 38, this energy can really manifest as fighting against life, of thrashing and struggling against life, pushing through obstacles without clarity, or engaging in battles that really drain your vitality. There's a lot of effort in the shadow frequency of gate 38, but little meaning. But as this frequency matures, as you kind of go through the process of that fight and of that struggle, one would realize that in order to continue struggling, it's important to know what meaning lies behind that. What really comes through as we persevere against something. And so we learn that perseverance is not about forcing outcomes, but instead about diligent, sustained devotion to what matters to us deeply. And that's a different kind of struggle. Struggle with a purpose, struggle with divine guidance. In the I Ching, gate 39, where the sun, Mars, and Venus are during this full moon, this gate is called opposition, and it really speaks to the necessity of standing your ground in the face of resistance. It really doesn't bring it through aggression, but through being aligned inwardly, aligning that inner sea goat quest with the actual physical quest to the top of the mountain. It's, again, this Capricorn energy of inward alignment with the outward world. And the highest expression in the gene keys of the gate of the fighter is honor. So honor is really when we know what it is that we're here to serve, and we give our energy to that purpose with deep integrity. So the gate of the fighter really teaches us that not all challenges are equal, and struggling for the sake of struggling is really a waste of energy, but that we can have honor and dignity when we consciously choose our struggles, and our struggles are guided by our values, the values that we've established with ourselves and with others, rather than reaction to the world always being the enemy. So Capricorn, this gate being in Capricorn, really shows that it's grounded and steady, value-driven fight that can really bring a lot of forward momentum here in the beginning of the year. And it is really concerned with responsibility, with integrity, and with the long game. And so Mars here, in addition to the sun being here, Mars has a element of action, drive, motivation, determination when it comes to the fight for what we believe in. And Venus there, the planet of values, the planet of harmony and love and romance, but all of that is based on the underlying values that we hold dear. Venus there is really helping us clarify what it is that we value and what we're willing to invest in and fight for. And then the sun there across from the full moon is really just shining the biggest light of the solar system on our purpose. So this side of the sky, this Capricorn side of the sky during this full moon, is asking us to be mature, be responsible, align our values and our drive and our inner willpower with a fight, but not a fight that is a struggle, a fight that is based on getting towards what it is that we believe is valuable in the long game and devoting ourselves to what actually matters. It's a slower build. There's like the release valve where the full moon is. It says, okay, you need to kind of in the moment decide how to be dynamic, how to move in and out of the shore like the crab does. And then on the other side, it's that I'm going to align my inward values with my long-term goals and make forward progress, decide what my fight is for in this lifetime. So, yeah, it's immediacy versus long game that this polarity of the sun and moon is really asking of us this full moon. This opposition between Cancer and Capricorn is really creating a conversation between our feelings and structures that we create in our life. It's between emotional truth and practical commitment. So this mother-father type of dynamic energy. And one side of the sky is saying, this is what I feel and this is what I need. I need to feel liberated in this moment. And then the other side of the sky that has this stellium of Sun, Mars, and Venus is saying, this is what I'm willing to work for and sustain over time. So, as with any polarity, it's important to remember that neither is wrong and both are necessary. And it's not about a battle of who's going to win, but it's really just that light of the full moon emphasizing that the long game is important. We're in the season of the long game, but at this particular moment in time, as the moon passes through, it's important to recognize the value in, knowing where you're provoked in the moment and allowing that to liberate you from pressure rather than feeling like you have to be trapped until the end of the year, the next lifetime. There are things we can do in the moment to satisfy ourselves. Yeah, so that's the full moon energy. There's a beautiful contemplation between those two dynamic energies as we have that pile up of Venus, Mars, and Sun all together opposing the moon. And it's a powerful one. It's something to really spend some time with and reparent yourself in these different ways of nurturing and strategy. And then on January 7th and then January 9th, Venus and Mars are going to be making exact Kazimis with the sun. And so they're all kind of traveling together, holding hands side by side through the gate of the fighter, gate 38, as the full moon happens. But then they're all going to be moving into gate 54, which is the gate where both Venus and Mars are going to sit on the throne of the sun, be in the heart of the sun. And a Cazimi moment in any planetary cycle, there's Mercury Cazimis, Mars Cazimis, Venus Cazimis. It's really when that planet is coming back to the beginning or is coming back into conjunction with the sun in its cycle around the sun. And so a lot of people in ancient times believed Casimi's was a time when something becomes purified and clarified. And it's a great time for intention setting or manifestation, kind of like a new moon is. This is like the new moon of that planet as it meets the sun. And so Kazimi really marks the precise midpoint of a planet's cycle with the sun, this moment of conjunction where a planet's themes are reset and illuminated from the inside out, really just given the honor of the sun's brightness. So the qualities of the planet are really emphasized during a Kazimi. And so both of them, Venus Kazimi and Mars Kazimi, happening in the gate of ambition, gate 54, is really a powerful way to start the new year, I will say. It's kind of incredible to know that we'll go through this full moon of provocation and the fighter and really start to emphasize what we can do in the current moment, as well as what we can do long term to align our inner world with our outer world and to take responsibility and accountability for our lives. And then moving in immediately after that to these Kazimis in the gate of ambition is really about an inner pull towards growth that feels purposeful and aspirational. And I think that that's a beautiful thing to come out of after this full moon. And in the Gene Keys, Gate 54, the gate of ambition, moves from the shadow of greed into the gift of aspiration. And then at its highest expression, it's known as ascension. And so, with those words in mind, this energy of these Kazimis is reminding us that wanting more is not inherently wrong, but that our longing for something more, for ambition or aspiration, really needs orientation and purpose, once again, meaning behind it in order to become nourishing. In the I Ching, Gate 54 is known as hexagram 54, the marrying maiden. And this is formed by the trigrams thunder over lake. So it's kind of this image of thunder bringing movement and awakening to the lake, which is a still, receptive, and quiet entity. And so it's again this dynamic interplay that's happening. The theme of dynamism is really strong this week. And together they are really describing advancement through having right relationship and timing rather than through force or just plodding ahead or fighting and struggling just for the sake of struggling. Once again, it's very related to the last gate, 38, the fighter. It kind of moves from the sea goat climbing up that mountain, just like plodding ahead, to realizing it's all about relationship with the existing structures of the mountain. You cannot fight the mountain. You need to have a goal in mind, but not necessarily just struggle against something that's continuously beating you down. You have to take a pause and figure out another path upward. And the marrying maiden in the I Ching is related to Chinese culture at the time of writing and the time of the evolution of this was about a maiden who married a person, an emperor who was already married, already had a wife. So it's kind of this concubine marrying in, kind of knowing that there was strategy in advancement and marrying upward, even though it wasn't an immediate success and not an immediate primary relationship. And so marrying maiden is kind of about understanding that there are forces beyond your control, but that you can build relationships with those larger forces and bring in advantageous direction for yourself. Marrying maiden is about overcoming challenges and achieving longevity in our relationships by means of being mindful of kind of the reality of situations, of kind of the larger dynamics that are at play, and not asserting yourself too much, not putting too much force into the situation, just aligning with what the reality is so that you can find balance by not drifting, but by not forcing and kind of being in that flow of understanding the larger parameters of the situation. Richard read about this gate says that when ambition is no longer driven by the need for validation or security, it transforms into aspiration, which is a quiet inner fire that lifts consciousness upward. And I really like that. It's like taking the validation and security needs out of our ambition. And what's left is aspiration. It is a beautiful word, being aspirational, knowing what your North Star is, knowing that you want to make it to the peak of the mountain, but not necessarily needing to do it for your own survival. So growth here is really just about not pushing and really having aspirations that allow us to align with deeper truths. So with Venus and Mars passing through the heart of the sun in this gate, our values and our actions are recalibrated, reset. The Kazimi is this reset button for the cycle and a moment of clarity. So in this gate, Venus is softening our sense of what truly matters, and Mars is refining how we direct our energy. And these Kazimis really invite us to notice the difference between ambition that's fueled by pressure and aspiration that arises naturally from aligning with the workings of the greater universe. So the Kazimi here can really help us feel where our effort can become devotion, not struggle, and where our striving can give way to a steadier commitment. Again, long game. This is that Capricorn energy of determination and not just thinking of the present moment. So a lot of positive energy will be shown on this gate with the Venus and Mars Kazimis there. And Venus is just asking us again, what truly matters? What are our values? What values do we want to align with? And then Mars is asking us, how are we going to take action on achieving those? How are we aligning with our values so that we can have an aspirational North Star to reach for as we figure out different paths up to the top of whatever mountain it is that we're personally climbing? So aspiration really begins when, yeah, our values and our actions are aligned. And that's a really wonderful thing to contemplate during this time of year. In addition to that long game and short game, day to day lunar cycle versus Saturnian long term cycle. They're both kind of being highlighted here. So, we are, with all this in mind, hopefully going to be able to start this new year, 2026, with clarity and aspiration. And on one side, Cancer is inviting us to listen to our emotional truths and notice what feels provoking, what feels tender, what feels stirred, what feels in need of our care and care of others. And then on the other hand, Capricorn is there asking us to consider what we're willing to build over time, what responsibilities we are ready to hold, and what commitments deserve our energy. Both Cancer and Capricorn are cardinal signs, meaning that they're the initiating signs within the zodiac. And that means that they're signs that kind of erupt and begin and start things, take initiative. And in Capricorn, that's kind of in an earthly form. And in Cancer, it's a watery form. So I like to think of Capricorn as like maybe a volcano, an new formation of earth, and Cancer as a wellspring that's coming out from beneath the earth and letting water out to the surface. And so, being these solstice gates, with Capricorn starting the winter solstice, where we're trying to plan ahead for the long term and relying on systems and structures of storing the fruits of the harvest, we have to be strategic in Capricorn season. And we have to initiate with that kind of forward looking long term momentum, with that Saturn version of time, that chronological Cronus version of time. And then Cancer, the summer solstice sign, the when we have to kind of make hay while the sun shines kind of energy. It's a time where it's beneficial and necessary to pay attention to the moments as they pass by, care for things as they arise in that moment. And that's again the lunar version of time. And neither one is they both cooperate with each other. So on this Cancer full moon, with the light of the sea goat sun shining on the Cancer moon in the opposite side of the sky, I'd say it's just a brief moment to take a momentary break from your plans, goals, and structures of this season and pause and think about the current moment and how it feeds into the larger strategy. Give yourself a little sacred pause, a little breather. And, resolutions oftentimes arise from the pause. The best resolutions that are truly aligned can arise from that moment in the shower or when you're kind of between asleep and awake. And yeah, finding beauty in the now of the moment. So think of this moon as a momentary reminder of summer solstice and go about it as if it were a sunny, long July day where you're tending to the ripened fruits in your lush garden with a warm evening breeze. Just on the day of the full moon, I'd say give yourself some of that energy, even though that might not be what it feels like in the season at hand. You can always find beauty in opposites on full moons, and this is no different. So dare to mother and father and parent yourself and your loved ones with both the boundaries and the comforts that you long for. And with that, I will wish you a very happy new year. As you step into this year, I invite you to just listen closely to what has been stirred, what is being stirred in your body, and also to feel what wants to grow and what you aspire to do. It's a beautiful, beautiful symbolic alignment of of all of these energies right now. So moving forward with care and intention, not pushing too hard, but by aligning with the fullness of where you already are is just a great thing to do on this full moon. So wishing you the very best as this year of this numerological 1 year begins, as this Wheel of Fortune year and the Tarot begins, as we make our way from the ending of the year of the snake into the year of the horse, which will happen in February. We're moving ahead, but we're really in a time of planting seeds and aligning with our inner truths before. I think February is when there's a big, the big conjunction between Neptune and Saturn and Aries, as well as the year of the fire horse beginning. And so February really feels like it's going to bring in a lot of energy. So I'd say use January as much as you can to find that inner alignment with the outer realities of what's going on in the world and get centered in that. And if you'd like to join me for a little bit of a centering breathwork session, I am offering a Capricorn season breathwork session and workshop where the first hour is devoted to looking at all of these different elemental and human design gates, different energies of Capricorn season. And then the second hour is integrating that into the body with a conscious connected breathwork session. I do one of these every month for my subscribers, my paid subscribers on Substack. And you can join that membership at livingthespiral.com. It's called the Embody the Revolution membership, and it's $8 a month. So very reasonable. It's going to be going through the end of this zodiacal year, and then it might switch up a little bit. But I do hope to see you there at the Capricorn Season Workshop. My website is also now live at hearthandspiral.com, and there you can find different ways to work with me. I offer human design and astrology readings, a reading that's been very popular called Find Your Shine that looks at both your astrology and human design and helps you recognize the places where you have innate gifts and where you can find your shine and your purpose, which would be a great thing to do for the beginning of a new year. And there's plenty more on there. I'm excited to be doing an online gathering, an online container about the ecological and somatic zodiac called Animal Body, Cosmic Body, and that's going to be happening in spring, but you can sign up for updates on that on my website as well. So go ahead and check out hearthandspiral.com, or livingthespiral.com is where you can find the Substack to join and get this in your inbox every new and full moon, as well as some additional bonus articles that I put out through Substack. And I always appreciate any likes, hearts, shares, comments, anything that you have to give in return for this labor of love. It's a culture of reciprocity, and I appreciate every bit of it. So thanks for being here on Living the Spiral, and I'll see you in a couple weeks for the new moon.